Here's what we know. Pakistan has seen its stocks soar, growth accelerate, currency stabilize, and foreign exchange reserves triple to a record in the last few years. And then there's China's investment, $46 billion in the 3,000-kilometer-long China-Pakistan economic corridor, part of the One Belt, One Road initiative. It's a remarkable economic turnaround, even as Pakistan faces ongoing security challenges from the Taliban and along its border with India. Later, we'll go in depth with our panel, but we begin in Islamabad with CCTV's Danial Kahn. And Daniel, take us through some of the economic challenges Pakistan was facing and the progress that's been made.
Well, Anand, according to the experts here, Pakistan can become an economic hub if it realizes its geo-economic and strategic potential. But so far, it has been unable to realize these factors. Now, economic challenges in Pakistan are many. There is an insignificant exploration of resources that are in abundance in Pakistan. Trade is yet another sector in Pakistan that is being neglected and ignored. Thirdly, Pakistan has been hit with economic challenges due to the security situation for a long time. There is only a small scale development due to security issues. We know that foreign investors are reluctant to invest in Pakistan. Then there were natural disasters like the floods, and Pakistan lost millions of dollars worth of crop in 2010 and 11. And then the government failed to negotiate with political parties that caused political uncertainty in the past. But despite all these challenges, economy has progressed. And according to the Asian Development Bank, the GDP growth has accelerated from 3.6 in 2011 to almost 4.7 in 2016. The ADB has further raised the projection for growth in 2017. Yes,
All right, Daniel, let's talk about China's investment. How important is investment by China to Pakistan's economic growth?
Well, like you mentioned in your opening remarks, Anand, that out of the $46 billion investment from China, $35 billion are allocated for energy. A massive power crisis has hit the industry badly, forcing the Pakistani businessmen to invest in offshore companies. Taking the business out of Pakistan means a higher rate of unemployment. And Pakistan Industrial Hub was the city of Islamabad, and many people have closed down their businesses in that city. There was a time Pakistan was one of the biggest exporters of cotton, but due to the power shortage, that time is long gone. But yes, with the arrival of CPEC and the revival of energy sector, the businessmen are hopeful that that this will greatly benefit the country's economy. Secondly, experts say that with the revival of industry, employment opportunities will also mushroom, and once that happens, they say that the security of the country will also improve. So yes, China's investment is of vital importance to Pakistan. Anand.
Thanks, Daniel. That's CCTV's Danial Kahn reporting from Islamabad. Okay, let's get to our panel. Joining us here in Washington is Moeed Yusuf. He's the Associate Vice President of the Asia Center at the United States Institute of Peace. Sourabh Gupta is a resident senior fellow at the Institute for China-America Studies. And joining us from Islamabad in Pakistan is the Executive Director of the Pakistan-China Institute, Mustafa. Welcome to all of you. So let's look at this project. It's a very big, ambitious project, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC as it's sometimes called. It will connect China's Xinjiang province to the rest of the world through the Pakistani port of Gwadar. Mustafa, how important is this corridor to Pakistan's economic growth?
Actually, you've asked the key question, and the feeling in the people of Pakistan and economists and the government is that this is going to be a game changer for Pakistan's economic growth, because it is going to address the energy crisis, the rapid industrialization through economic zones, and also connect Pakistan with Central Asia and the rest of the region. So a lot of hopes are pinned to this project. And already, as you know, Pakistan has been given a status of an emerging market from a frontier market. And our forex reserves have also substantially increased only in the past 2 years of the start of this project. And the shortfall of 5,000 megawatts, which is what is required to address the electricity problem, the lack of electricity, will also be addressed by 2018. So it's headed in the right direction, and a lot of priority is being given to this project across the political spectrum.
So, Moeed, a big spurt for Pakistan's economic growth here, and it's not just energy generation we're talking about the country's broad economic growth. It's one thing having Chinese investment coming in, $46 billion, Moeed, but what does Pakistan have to do?
It's a good question. Look, the whole idea behind CPEC, quite frankly, is strategic. It's economic, but there's a whole geopolitics angle to this, which we shouldn't forget. And I think what Pakistan has to do is really allow China that connection to import energy from the rest of the world, Africa included, which China is struggling now because of the South China Sea problem. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think it's that guarantee, it's that opening to China that the Chinese are going to look for desperately going forward, given that their situation in the South China Sea does not seem to be improving and probably will not as China rises and competes with the US. So that's sort of the number one thing that the Chinese are expecting from Pakistan. On the technical side, it's really capacity. You know, it is all good to say, and I agree with Mustafa, this could be a potential game changer for Pakistan. I spent the whole summer there, and that's exactly how people are approaching this. The question is whether the economy and the institutions have the capacity to absorb $50 billion so quickly. This is not easy. It's 1/5 of Pakistan's GDP. And whether the institutions can cope with that, whether they can do it in a transparent manner and fulfill the requirements of getting these projects going on the ground with a lot of Chinese support and labor, I think that remains to be seen. But if they can get there, this could potentially be the sort of breaking of the logjam that Pakistan finds itself in economically, given that, in terms of geopolitics, it's not really the most favored nation, if you will, around the world right now.
Sourabh, do you agree that, this is about economic growth, but as Moeed points out, there's a very big, strong geopolitical component to this, China's investment?
Yes, there is a very strong strategic dimension to this. But I would also add that just Pakistan standing up on its feet economically in a healthy way itself improves Pakistan's strategic situation and Pakistan's strategic standing. So to that extent, there is the strategic dimension, the geo-economic and the geopolitical dimensions are fused in this project. That is typically the case with these large infrastructure connectivity projects. And frankly, if we can have win-win gains from that process, and talking from an Indian perspective, to see Pakistan get its act in order economically is also a win-win proposition. So yes, there is strategic competition involved, and yes, there is a strategic component to this, but all of these point in a very favorable direction from a sub-regional and a regional point of perspective.
Right, and Sourabh, how important is this project to China's overall One Belt, One Road strategy?
I think it is very important simply because the projects in Pakistan are the ones which are the quickest to be realized, actualized. The Belt and Road Initiative is still is still more conceptual than actually rolled out on the ground. In Pakistan, we have the opportunity where these projects actually come to fruition and come to fruition early. It becomes important from that perspective because there are all variety of criticisms against the Belt and Road, often from people who would not like it to succeed, but the sort of complaints that what are the environmental standards, what are the assessments being made, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So from that perspective, if it rolls out early and these are done in a green, lean, and clean manner, it'll add to the image of how OBOR is perceived in the world.
Okay, Mustafa, let's talk about the nuts and bolts of these projects. The thing is, how will it affect normal people, real people? Pakistan has a population, 30% of which are young adults. This is the future of Pakistan. These are the people who are going to make the future of Pakistan.
Sure.
How is it going to change their lives?
Yes. You see, you have to put it into context. As some of the other colleagues just said, that it's part of the One Belt, One Road. And in the One Belt, One Road, but the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is the pilot project of China in any country. And a lot of the early harvest projects, which are the first phase of the 14 projects, have been, some of them have already reached financial close, which is a good indicator for just for the start of 2 years. So this is already being forecasted to create multiple jobs, as the energy projects and the construction projects have coupled with them vocational training institutes, universities, and knowledge corridors, which will provide a lot of jobs in different arenas to engineers, to doctors, to young professionals, to teachers, and also to students to study in the neighboring regional countries. So it's a sort of a pan-regionalism which is emerging from Pakistan. And an interesting development which has been very recent is that Turkey, Iran, and Kazakhstan have also showed their interest officially to be part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So there's sort of a greater South Asia, if you will, which is emerging. And a lot of jobs have already been created in the existing projects which has started. And people have already started learning a lot of Chinese and are now applying for universities. Young people are applying for universities in the neighboring country. So there's this whole buzz in the air, so to speak. And the benefits of that are, some are immediate and some are slightly more long-term, since the project is aimed to complete till 2030. So it's in 3 phases, and we have to look at it holistically.
If I may add, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And there's a lot of exuberance on the street in Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan's first sort of Urdu paper has also gone Chinese. And so, there are things happening, that's for sure. 2 things I'll say. One, I think the real sustainable part of job creation and economic development, apart from this mega infrastructure and energy, is going to be the local economies that develop around this infrastructure. And I think that's a whole different project which has to be done within Pakistan. What kind of economies spring up along roads, along these projects?
That's where your job creation is going to come.
I think that's really the sustainable part of it. I mean, this is going to last till whenever, but how can you actually sustain this? That question needs to be asked more. But let me also add that the real elephant in the room here still remains the India-Pakistan relationship. When we talk about a larger South Asia, a pan-regional kind of approach, unfortunately, you're still talking of a north-south corridor. And the India-Pakistan tensions and the relationship where it is, we've just had a cancellation of the SAARC summit, which is the South Asian regional cooperation body. Unless that equation gets settled over time, over this 15-year period, I'm afraid no project is going to get to its optimal results. It's still going to be very good for Pakistan, for China, for the region. But I think that elephant in the room, if we don't address that, if that can get kicked down the road every single time, I think South Asians are going to lose at the end of the day.
If I can just make one remark here, that I totally agree that definitely Pakistan-India relations will impact, if they head in the right direction, will definitely impact it positively. But given that the regional countries, neighboring countries have expressed their interest to join the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Pakistan and China have made it clear that this is not exclusive project, or it's not just a bilateral project, but it's a multilateral project, and all the neighboring countries are most welcome to be part of it and join it to increase the connectivity, because it will be win-win. So I think that it would be definitely very good for India to be part of it and to view it as a project which will be a force multiplier for India's progress rather than a threat.
That's great. Yeah, Sourabh, it's a big project, as I mentioned. When Chinese economic planners look at something like this, when they look at what their investment is going to mean to another country, what are we talking about? Are we talking about getting raw materials out of the country, getting goods moving across, getting labor moving across? What exactly is this money being invested in?
The Chinese have framed the Belt and Road Initiative in a very grand way and in a very loose and flexible way. So it can include all sorts of, all factors of production, in the production process. The main goal, as I understand, is to create those linkages, those connectivity linkages. And those connectivity linkages could then, as has been mentioned, then be the basis for creating urban hubs or semi-urban hubs or industrial parks or manufacturing zones. We've already actually, this is not a completely new concept. You know, in India itself, Japan and India have what is called a Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. And the whole purpose of that is to link two big industrial areas which goes through a part of the country which is very dynamic and create coastal manufacturing zones which will then reach out to export markets.
So now in Pakistan, we're talking about this corridor which will actually open up the hinterland as well, develop
absolutely.
that area.
It'll open up the hinterland, and that's why it is these logistical connections which are very important. Of course, it goes beyond that. There is going to be just power production and just some of those basics, but Pakistan and India is lacking in many of those basics. And so from that fundamental perspective, this is a transformational project, not just for Pakistan. As I see it, this is one of the great transformational projects that is happening over the past 50 years. We had at the end of the Second World War, we had a new liberal international trading order created. In the 1970s and 80s, we had Japanese outward direct investment in labor-intensive manufacturing going to export markets. Pakistan and India both missed the bus on both of those. It's time to get on the bus this time.
Very quickly, before we go to break, Sourabh, what about Mustafa's point that this could be a win for India as well, notwithstanding that these two countries do have political issues?
Oh, absolutely, it can be a win. And I would hope that, when Modi came into office, he was talking in terms of cross-border connectivity linkages. That was one of the mantras. He had been to China many times, and he did not have the insecurities that many of the Indian elites had against China. But things have subsequently gone backwards, and we can expand on this greater in the second section, but absolutely the connectivity linkages, east-west connectivity linkages are waiting to be created.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break right now. More of our conversation when we return. Stay with us. You're watching The Heat.